Would you stay till the morning light, or would you follow me?
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kayla, and if you're not new, thanks for coming back. Always happy to have you. Here on this channel, I like to do a lot of bookish lifestyle content, all sorts of things like that. So if any of that interests you, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and stick around so you don't miss a video. We have a couple things to get into before we actually get into the review for today, which you already know by the title of this video, is of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, which I am super excited to share with you today. First things first, setup, lighting, sound, all of that. This is the first video that I'm filming in my new apartment where I live with my parents. If you're new, I recently just moved out of my childhood home and into an apartment with my parents. Figuring out the best place to be to film, figuring out the best lighting. They're sleeping because it's like 10 o'clock at night, so I don't want to be super loud. So this video might be a little bit rough, but hopefully we'll work through all that. So if it's serving like prison, help me escape, I apologize. Secondly, I wanted to share with you this sweatshirt that I'm wearing today, which is some bookish merch that I'm super excited to have. I got this from a shop I found on TikTok. I'll have all of their stuff linked down below, but this is a Rattle the Stars crew neck sweatshirt from Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm posting a vlog next week that has a t-shirt from the same shop from A Court of Thorns and Roses. Did I say that wrong? This one's Throne of Glass. The t-shirt is A Court of Thorns and Roses, but the shop is called House of Jupiter, and they have the cutest bookish merch for your favorite series, so I will leave them linked down below. Make sure you go check them out. Thirdly, before we get into our review of The Night Circus, I need you to do count them three things for me. First things first, I need you to hit that red subscribe button. Second, I need you to stop what you're doing. I need you to go to the comments. I need you to tell me what you're reading, because I'm always interested to see what people are reading, and a lot of people don't like take me seriously when I say that, but I want to know what you're reading. Comment so I can see what you're reading. I will also be posting what I'm reading right now in the comments, so you will see a future book review coming up. And thirdly, before we get into this review, go grab yourself a beverage, whatever you're needing. Wine, coffee, tea, water. Have you had your water yet today? If not, go grab something to drink so we can sit down and chat about The Night Circus. Today I have some peppermint tea from Trader Joe's. First things first, The Night Circus is like an adult, I would categorize it as an adult fantasy, that it's never in the fantasy section. I always find it in the adult fiction section, but it follows this magical circus that has all these like dreamy, wondrous acts in it, that appears randomly in towns and cities around the world with no warning. It only is open from dusk to dawn, so it's only open at night, and these wonderful, enchanting exhibits can be viewed by people of all ages. At this circus, there are two magicians that are in a challenge to determine who is the better magician, basically from which school of thought is magic more powerful. So one uses more arcane magic with inking and symbols, and the other uses more like mental energy magic. And they are in a competition, a challenge to see who is the best. It is kind of an intense challenge, and there's a little bit of romance thrown in along the way. It follows Marco and Celia, the two magicians that are very young throughout their lives in the circus. Everyone involved in the circus is kind of trapped in this circus bubble. They're all kind of entwined in the challenge in a different way. So they don't ever age. They can't leave the circus, anything like that. And though Marco and Celia don't really know who each other are until about midway through the book, they do know that they have an opponent through the circus, and they start to build tents and exhibits to kind of send a message to the other, and they kind of turn into love letters between Marco and Celia. It's a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. It's a few years old now, and Erin Morgenstern does have a second book called The Starless Sea. It is not a sequel. It's like another book, if that makes sense. And this book is 512 pages long, so a bit lengthy of a read. It did take me a little bit longer to read. But yeah, The Starless Sea, the second book. I have heard mixed reviews of The Starless Sea, so if you've read The Night Circus and The Starless Sea, I need you to do me a favor and let me know. Does Starless Sea live up to The Night Circus? Is it worth the read? it sounds interesting to me, but I want to know what you guys think before I dive in. Okay, we did our summary. Let's get into the cons of this book before we get into the pros. I'm going to be really honest. The cons list is short. I only got one thing. People love this book. Like, this is a lot of people's favorite book. I know a lot of people that have read this book, but they're actually not the ones that made me read it. It was actually TikTok. I saw a TikTok video where they were posting like a love quote between Marco and Celia, and I was like, I should read that book. Here's the deal for me. My biggest con with this book, and my only con with The Night Circus, is I didn't super buy into the romance here. Like, in theory, it felt nice to throw romance into this book, but it didn't feel the most solid romance, if that makes sense. It felt for me, and maybe I was just kind of naive to it or distracted, but it felt very sudden when Marco and Celia started confessing love for each other. I had always thought of them as like acquaintances or partners in more of a business sense, but never really like friends or being in love. It felt like for a minute they didn't know who they were, who their opponent was, and they were a little bit like wary of their opponent. Once they figured out who it was, they kept their distance a little bit, and then suddenly it felt like now all of a sudden they have an undeniable attraction to each other and they're in love and they're declaring their love publicly. It felt just a smidge sudden. I would have loved a little bit more of a gradual, slow burn for me. I would have bought into it a little bit more of that romance in the first half, because I felt like it didn't really start until a little bit past the second half of the book. And maybe that's just me, but it felt like we went from not sure of this guy to he's the love of my life. The way they do explain it a lot better in the second half of the book, that through this challenge and this bond that they have in the challenge, and not just like being able to relate to each other, but they actually have a magical binding to each other through the challenge. They've grown to love each other, and that does make sense. Being bound to one another in such an oath and such a competition makes sense that there would be some feeling in that connection, especially when they start building tents to each other and explaining that they are building these exhibits as like love letters to the other, or because they thought that the other would enjoy it. For example, Celia builds a wishing tree tent where you go into this tent and there's this massive tree filled with candles, and you take a candle when you walk in and you make a wish and you light it with another candle that's already been lit from the tree, and that way the power and the light from somebody else's wish lights your own. Beautiful image. Just like these really lovely sentiments to each other. So while I appreciated that, it felt a little bit sudden. I would have liked it to be a little bit more consistent, slow burn throughout the book, but that's my only con. And I still really liked their romance in the end. It made me happy. I was rooting for them. I wanted them to end up together. So overall, not a crazy big con. Okay, for pros. This, I actually have to look at the notes because I wrote a lot of things down. Throughout this book, these are like the little details in the reading experience that I always love. I talked about these with the Ichabod, with the illustrations. It just brings a little bit more to the reading experience for the reader. I love when books and publishers and authors do things like that. There were parts of the Ichabod, if you didn't see my review, it'll be linked here and below, where the narrator directly spoke to the reader. I love when books do that. From the beginning of this book, that is something that Erin Morgenstern does. She explains kind of an experience of walking through the circus as if you're really there. So she's saying you walk through this tent and up to this booth and you get a ticket and you walk in and you smell this and you see this and you hear this, and it really brings the reader into this whimsical, lovely, dreamlike experience of this circus. It's so perfect. I honestly really looked forward to those little snippets, and I got so excited every time I found one because it made me feel like I was at the night circus, and it it just added to the magic of this book. Oh, I actually wrote it in. The intro brings you right in as part of the story. You're waiting for the circus to open like everyone else. Now you may enter is something that she actually writes to open the book, and to have the same experience as the characters is so good. I love when authors do that. One thing that I did like that I didn't pay attention to at first is there were a lot of time jumps. I wouldn't always pick up on the fact that we started in like 18 something, 80, 90, or I don't know, and then we would jump to like 1901. It took me a while to put together the timeline, but I really liked that time skip. It wasn't very like, it wasn't jarring. It didn't disrupt the story. It flowed together super well, which I think is hard to do. I think a lot of people do big time jumps like that and they feel like distinct different stories, but Erin Morgenstern made it so cohesive in this book that you could be in 1836 or 1888 or 1901 and we're still at the same night circus. We're still following the same story and it doesn't feel like you're going out of order. One aspect I really liked about this book that I don't think everybody can appreciate is the inclusion of tarot in this book. As somebody who has dabbled in tarot and tried to understand the major and minor arcana of tarot, the tarot readings that Erin Morgenstern includes in this book are so revealing if you understand the cards and if you understand what she's talking about. The meanings of those cards are very deliberately chosen. They have very deliberate meanings for what's happening in the story, and it's kind of cool because it felt like I was reading the cards along with her, again adding to that reader experience. But I also, I don't know, maybe this is flawed of me, but I did appreciate that they didn't super explain what the cards meant. So like the people that understand tarot understand what was happening in the book, but if you don't, you're just kind of like and you pass over it. But if you understand the cards she's referring to, you understand another layer of the story. It was just so well done. Like, I first noticed it when Celia gets her reading from Isabel in Prague, and I was just like, this is really cool. And a lot of the major characters of the story get tarot readings at different times. It just reveals so much about them. So if you haven't, or you don't understand tarot, definitely go back and maybe read those sections or look up those specific cards she's talking about, and she'll reveal a little bit more about the characters to you. This was probably my biggest pro of this book. The writing was absolutely gorgeous. It was honestly, and I'm not even being dramatic, it was breathtaking the way that she described some things and the way that she wrote, and the flow and the voice of her writing was just so beautiful and lyrical. Like, it felt like I was reading like music or poetry. It was just like a different kind of writing, a different kind of lyrical writing that I haven't experienced in a really long time. Her voice and her writing style is just simply like lovely. It was such a refreshing experience to read her writing because she writes so beautifully. I would honestly recommend this book simply for that, to go read her writing style and read her voice, because it was divine. I mentioned this in my This Woven Kingdom review. It felt like Teheda Mafi tried really hard to write lyrically, but it kind of came off as forced, and this is the exact opposite. This is lyrical writing that flows very naturally, very beautifully, and like effortlessly. It was just gorgeous writing. I can't speak highly enough about it. I can only hope that one day I'm able to write like that. And that brings me to my next pro, and this is again kind of just another one. This was such a dream of a book. It was so whimsical but so involved that you were really just kind of like, you're kind of sucked in right away, but you're so happy to be there because it's like you're walking into a dream. It is just such an enchanting concept of this circus of dreams with a magical contest, right? And it's just so beautiful. And I literally wrote this in my notes, and I had this thought several times that this is the kind of book, this magical realism is the kind of book that makes you believe in magic. I don't even have the words. Like, I feel like I'm repeating myself at how incredible it is, but it literally was enchanting and a book full of wonder. And even with that element of that contest and that intensity of the contest, it never took away from the dreamlike quality. You're just still figuring out who wins the contest, but you are enjoying the circus as you go along. And I think what's really cool is in multiple aspects of this book, you have somebody who feels stuck, that wants to feel free, that wants more to life than just what they've been handed, and they want to live that life with freedom of choice and autonomy. And spoiler alert, all of them get it. And it's just such a beautiful, hopeful sentiment that everybody is capable of that choice and that autonomy and that freedom to make life what they want and to like live a dream life, or to live the life of their dreams, and to go after something bigger than just the cards that they were dealt. So I really appreciated this book, and I have a couple of quotes that I want to share with you because that's my biggest pro, is that this book is beautiful. This concept was gorgeous. It made me so happy to escape to the circus, and even with the darkness and the somewhat dark parts of it, it was still such a beautiful book. Okay, this might be a new section of these reviews, but I have two quotes that I want to share with you that I really appreciate from this book. The first is from a character named Bailey, who lives in a town in Massachusetts that the circus visits, and from a very young age he is obsessed with the circus, and he loves it, and he waits for it to come back. And other people are talking about whether or not he should go to Harvard or if he should inherit his family's farm, and all the while he's just dreaming about the circus. This is after he first visits the farm, the circus. By the time he reaches the farm, he is sure that the Bailey he is now is closer to the Bailey he is supposed to be than the Bailey has been the day before. So I just really like that, because it feels like sometimes we have an experience that brings us closer to who we feel like we're supposed to be. And I really love that concept of like always moving towards the best version of yourself, or who you're supposed to be, and to see that moment captured for Bailey was really cool. Also, I thought of another pro, or just another thought, I guess. I would love to see this as a movie or a TV show. To see this come to life on screen would be amazing. Like, I'm thinking like Shadow and Bone TV series, but make it night circus. And this is about another character named Widget. Widget has a twin sister, and Widget and Poppet, his sister, both have like these uncanny abilities to see the future and to see the past. Widget can see the past, and he has these really great experiences of reading people and what they've had, and he's able to turn them into like beautiful stories. So he understands a lot of history, he understands people's history, and he writes these incredible stories based on them. And he makes this comment to a different character, but it was just like, I felt like a very, Ari, my sister, is gonna hate this word, it felt like a very bookish mindset quote, just like a very like book lovers quote. And I would like love this on a t-shirt or something, but I suppose there will never be a lack of things to say, of stories to be told and shared. And that's just like, as a writer, really great to hear, and a reader, like there's always going to be another story like that should be told or that needs to be told, and just happy thought. I literally also wrote about this book that it truly feels like a dream, and it did. I stand behind that thought. Let's talk about what I rate this book. If you haven't guessed already, this was a 5-star read. 5 stars. It was an incredible book. I highly recommend it. I've been talking about this book non-stop with people. highly recommend reading it if you haven't already. I know I'm really late to the game. This book is old, so you probably already have, but I think this is our first 5-star review, which is pretty exciting. And lastly, do I think you should read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern? Absolutely. I think that you would not be wasting your time to read this book. I think you would get something out of it. I think anybody could take away a quote or an image or a character that resonates with them. I feel like this would be a positive reading experience for so many people. It was such a lovely, delightful book, and I am so happy that I read it. I'm just sad that I put it off for this long, and I feel like this is going to be a book that I'm going to want to reread in the future. We're adding another new quick segment to these reviews. For Christmas, my sister got me a really cool personalized library stamp. So books that are making it, I would say probably 4 stars, 4 and 5 stars, will get my little stamp in the book. Anything below that's at risk of being donated probably will not. So let's go ahead and stamp up The Night Circus. So yeah, let me know what you thought of The Night Circus down below. Did you like it? Did you not? Have you read it yet? Have you not read it? What did you like or dislike? If you haven't read it yet, what questions do you have? What's holding you back? Let me know and let the book world help you. Okay, I'm just making sure I ink this guy up good. Got my little stamp all ready to go. Oh my god, that is super cute. Look at that. She's in the library. That is all that I have for you guys today. As always, leave me your thoughts down below. Leave me what you're reading down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and go follow me on Instagram at RoyReadingCo. And I hope you enjoyed this review of The Night Circus. I hope you found it helpful. And I hope you're enjoying reviewing every book that I read in 2022 because I'm having so much fun. And that's all I have. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
Would you stay till the